voice.
I didn't fuck with you jabroniing me out earlier. Not giving me a chance to talk back at your aliens nonsense.
It happened. It's real.
I'm sure it did, but I'm sure it's a weather balloon or some shit.
No, it was actually several drones. You can see the video. It looks like human-made drones, but they're bigger, like the size of cars. And everyone was like, "Oh, it's got to be Russian," but like they're not Russian. Like the Russians, like not fucking ours, guys.
Where was this at?
Like Poland or something. I don't know.
Guys, we've only got an hour here.
Yeah, I know.
I was waiting on you. I was waiting on you.
Access, the show where we dive deeper into the subject we cover on, or subjects we cover on Story Beneath. I'm John the Elder. I'm here with John the Younger.
Yo.
How you feeling today?
Tired.
Tired. And also in with us again is our ringmaster, Kane.
You say in with us like I'm a guest or something. It makes it sound like it's unusual.
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, we have a special guest today, Kane. Welcome onto the pod.
Welcome.
The
Kane.
voice that you've heard the most of.
For the first time ever.
Yeah.
All right. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm a little tired, to be honest.
A little tired. I'm feeling good today. I got a lot of sleep. I'm drinking my coffee. Feeling so I've got.
You do have a lot
Getting
of,
the
you
energy.
also have like a giant mason jar full of coffee.
I do. Mason jar gives away that we're in the South. We haven't talked about that yet. So.
I think we have.
I think they can tell.
Drinking
from our
out of a
voices.
mason jar is an exclusively Southern thing, right? Like people in the North don't just have mason jars. It's like I'm
I don't
drinking out of a
think
mason.
so.
I was going to say, I don't think they even have, or do they have
Yeah,
mason jars?
mason jars are a thing.
But what do they put in them?
They use them for canning and
Jams.
stuff. I
Okay.
mean, it's,
Jams and salsas.
this is how southern we are. John the Younger didn't realize that mason jars are used for things besides drinking.
That is some white trash.
Like,
shit.
what do you
That's
mean?
not Southern. That's
They're
pure
like,
white
don't drink
trash.
out of it.
That's pure white trash.
What do they use it for?
All right. Hey, what are we going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about Atlantis.
Again, we keep talking about Atlantis. We've already done Donnelly.
This
We've
actual,
got the
like,
Pompeii
real-
Sexy Fun Time. Now
Yeah.
we're talking about.
This is like a real Atlantis, though. So, the thing about Atlantis, no matter what, and I've heard Graham Hancock phrase it this way: the earliest source we have. A lot of people said the earliest source we have on Atlantis. No, the one single, only source in the entirety of human history that we have on Atlantis is two dialogues written by Plato. They exist nowhere else in any culture at any point in their history. This is the first and only source of Atlantis.
So we're going to dive deep into Plato and Plato's writings on Atlantis in particular.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about this a little bit before the show, but my experience with philosophy is kind of, it's like a blind spot for me. I kind of
Yeah.
explained it before as like, it's like the thinking person's horoscopes, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like,
And yeah,
That's
Like-
insanely derogatory.
I'm sorry, philosophy majors. This is like I know it's a negative view of philosophy, but that's kind of the way I've looked at it for a long time because my experience with philosophy is people find their guy or woman, but mostly guys, and they're like, "This is my guy. Nietzsche's
Yeah.
my guy. You know, Marx is my guy.
Plato.
Plato's my guy. Stoicism, that's my thing, baby." Like
Yeah.
that's kind of my vibe. John, what's your experience with philosophy and Plato? Oh, I know the cave. I know Plato's cave.
Yeah.
Like this is deep and I'm high. Plato's cave.
A lot of philosophy stuff I've ran across are internet role players, I guess. You know, like they like taking the philosophy, or I guess philosophy in ancient Rome, and then being like, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, Stoicism's big in the manosphere. I know that.
Yeah.
But they don't read like these ancient Greek philosophers. They just
No.
hear quotes
Yeah.
and they're like,
As
yeah,
far
that's
as
sweet.
like, see, that's all I know about Stoicism comes from the manosphere, and it's just like I think Stoicism is just like how long you can go without masturbating. Like I think that's what Stoicism
It
is.
kind of is in the modern world.
I mean, yeah, modern day, that's really what it is.
All right, let's
Yeah.
go.
And I think that's a fair disclaimer to make. We're not philosophy people here.
No,
No.
We're not.
I-
We're more lean pretty heavily toward the hard science aspect of things.
I've read some real world philosophy, but a lot of it really mingles with like what's the word for it? I guess e-commerce.
Yeah, like economy and stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Philosophy, yeah.
I
That's a
took
whole other thing, I think.
I
I
took
don't
a
think
philosophy
it's
of religion class in college like 15 years ago, and that's about the extent of my philosophical study.
But now you have a lot more because we're about
I
to.
haven't been reading up Plato a lot.
He was
We're
like the
getting to the
OG.
root
He's like the
here.
OG
We're getting
philosopher.
to the root of Atlantis
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, this is like the OG philosopher, though, Plato, right? Like him and Socrates are kind of like the Magic Johnson and Larry Bird the Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson of philosophy.
Of Western philosophy, sure. Western philosophy and Eastern philosophy are very separated. They generally cover very different topics as well. It seems. Yeah, like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle are sort of like the three great Western philosophers. Again, we already made this disclaimer, but I'm not going to say it every time. But if people want to be nitpicky about it, we're not philosophy people. We might be wrong about it.
There's probably some forefather
Philosophy.
we've never heard of, and we're getting flamed in the comments for it.
Plato wasn't the first. Neither was Socrates.
All right, let's get into it.
Like an
Yeah,
Asian
so-
guy philosopher.
Yeah, there's got to be like a first, right? Like a dude who like forefathered.
There
like,
was
the
some
way.
guy who like, just sat staring at like a cloud, like why? And then like,
Why?
I mean, that's kind of what philosophy is.
Not how, but why?
It's important though, because without the start of philosophy, though, we didn't really have science. So they're married.
Well,
close
I mean, that's
together.
true. Aristotle is considered like the
So we'll
father
give
of
it
modern logic and
We
science.
gotta give it some stuff. Without philosophy, we wouldn't have math. Like Pythagorean would be a thing.
Yeah, Pythagoras
There would be
was
his
a
cool
philosopher
cults
as
and
well.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So,
All right, let's get into Plato. Let's do
so
this.
Plato discusses Atlantis exclusively in two dialogues, Timaeus and Critias. So these two dialogues are companion dialogues. It's believed that they were supposed to be part of a trilogy that never got finished, the third dialogue being Hermocrates.
And was that the one that got stopped halfway through that we mentioned in our
No.
video? Okay.
Hermocrates was never
Never even touched.
but it is it starts in Timaeus. So how I assume they're coming about this conclusion that there was supposed to be a third is because there are things in these two that lead you to believe that there will be a third. Says in Timaeus, when Timaeus starts talking, he's like, I'm about to, because Timaeus, as well as a brief summary of the Atlantis, also contains Plato's cosmology. So it goes into a lot of that stuff too, and he tells that through Timaeus. And when Timaeus starts talking, he's like, I need a little bit of leeway here because this is a big subject, so just, let me speak, before, give me some leeway in my speak.
Yeah.
And then when Critias starts, he says, please give me the same leeway that Timaeus received. And Socrates says, yes, I will give you that leeway. And when Hermocrates' time comes, I'll give him the same because I'm sure he's going to ask for it as well.
We really shouldn't plan a trilogy. The box office is a fickle.
I was gonna make the same
Well, I mean-
joke. I was gonna say he's doing a Marvel trilogy.
Yeah, you gotta be careful.
The second one's Critias is either unfinished or the last of it is lost. I'm not sure which one it is.
I tend to think he was just like, as we talk about it in the story beneath,
Did
like
either you
that
look
happens
into
a
this at
lot.
all?
There's no way to know.
Yeah,
There's no
No, it's-
guesses from.
There's guesses, sure, but there's no. It's
Yeah,
not
sure,
possible to know.
yeah.
There's
It's
just
either
no-
lost or just wasn't done, which really makes me lean toward the idea that he just didn't finish it.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Well, we have stuff like the Odyssey, right? Which is like part of like a 7-part or 8-parter, and most of that's lost. Am I wrong about that?
The Odyssey's pretty well
complete. Neil
Okay.
did as well, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we have enough texts that have survived long enough.
Well-
It's my personal logic.
Enough of Plato's text that he finished.
Yeah,
His
Sure, and
dialogues
he's,
that he
he's a
finished.
significant enough figure.
Yeah. So, I already mentioned a couple of them, but there are 4 characters in these two dialogues. The first one being Socrates. Socrates is a character in, I believe, all but 2 of Plato's dialogues, written throughout his entire life. Plato's first dialogue is the Apologia is the, but it's in English it's referred to as the Apology or Plato's Apology, which covers the trial of Socrates. So Socrates was kind of, we don't know much about him, honestly. There's no contemporary records of him. The only way we know really anything about Socrates is through the writings of Plato and another one of his students, Xenophon. He didn't, if he wrote stuff down, it didn't get preserved. But it seems like he was more of a talker than a writer. He was known, his big sort of great contribution was the Socratic method, which is a method of discussion to get at like the source of someone's belief, which is basically just, as I understand it, just asking more and more specific questions until you get to the root of whatever it is.
Some things are real and some things are not. Like, that's the answer to the question.
Kinda, I guess. By the way, just any biographical information I'm getting from the Encyclopedia Britannica website, with one exception that
I have a
when
quick
I get there.
question. Is there more evidence of Socrates' existence or more evidence of Bigfoot's existence?
Yeah, I've already started conspiracy. Socrates isn't real.
Is there more evidence of Socrates' existence or the existence of the UFO phenomena?
Socrates. There is
The
evidence.
UFO phenomenon.
So there is evidence of his existence. There's documentation of his existence. It's just his philosophy and his teachings are only known through Xenophon and
An
Plato.
airport just shut down in Europe, like the other day, due to UFO activity, and they don't know where it's come from. It was confirmed not to be Russian. So yes, the UFO phenomenon. Back to Plato.
Yeah, it is known that he existed, and where he differs from everyone else in the story, Socrates was not a wealthy or high-born individual. He was a commoner who sort of worked his way into the upper crust of Athenian society. He was very popular among the wealthy young men of Athens because, said with the Socratic method, his thing was just question after question. He questioned things. He questioned everything. He questioned the rules. He questioned the
System,
societal
man.
norms. Yeah, and it was very popular among the youthful male aristocracy.
Yeah, he was just,
including
he
Plato.
was the, hey man, I'm just asking questions of his day.
Kinda. Yeah, so wealthy young men sort of flocked to him and like to learn from him. He did consider himself a teacher, but he never had a formal like education system. He never had a school or anything. And in Plato's Apology, which covers the trial of Socrates, he talks about how he never took any money from anyone for teaching. So he never charged students. He never like had a formal system of any kind. He just, let them learn from him and discuss with them. So Socrates, he was actually a soldier as well. Or he wound up being sort of a big deal in Athens. It's not known exactly how. I couldn't find anything about how well known he was, but he was at least fairly well known in the upper crust of Athenian society. In the years right there, in 399, he was put on trial for they accused him of atheism and of corrupting the youth.
And forced to drink hemlock, as the story goes, right? Is that what it
That's
is?
what they believed that it was. He was put on trial for it.
And killed.
There are two accounts of this come from Plato and Xenophon. Plato was there at the time. Xenophon was not. He heard about it through what was his name?
How is Xenophon not the main character of the story?
Xenophon doesn't appear in the dialogues.
He's got a main
I
character
feel like
ass name.
Xenophon and Plato probably had like a friendly rivalry going on. So Socrates liked me more than you, asshole.
Socrates had a lot of students, apparently. Yeah.
But those are his two favorites,
Those
right?
are the two
Not
writings who
necessarily,
survived.
no.
Yeah, the writings survived.
Yes. They were the most prominent ones that wrote about
I
him.
put his name on paper and was like, this guy was rad.
Yeah, they both. Plato's Apology was written from a first-hand perspective. He was there at the trial. He was not allowed to speak on Socrates' behalf, but he was there. Xenophon was not. In his apology, he recounts what a man named Hermogenes told him about the trial.
And the apology, just to be clear, is the story being told of what happened at
It
the
means
trial.
the defense.
Yeah,
Yes.
basically they're defending
Yes.
him against the accusations.
They're not
Even though
defending
he's-
it, they're recounting it, basically.
Right. Okay.
This is where it gets hard to understand who Socrates really was, because everything we know about him is told through other people, and in these two apologies are quite different from, he's characterized quite different. So, in Plato's, in both of them, he's very defiant. Like he says at the end, after he's been, spoiler alert, he's convicted, he's found guilty, and he's sentenced to death, which he was convicted by like a very narrow margin. It wasn't by a whole lot, just a few votes. And just the irony of this, Socrates was not and when I'll use the word a few times in this, a Democrat. I don't mean capital D Democrat, a political party. It's lowercase d. Democrat meaning someone who is a
Wait,
supporter
he's a
of
fucking
democracy.
liberal. Okay, it's not all okay. All right.
Yeah, so like in Plato's, he is defiant as well. But the thing that sort of distinguishes them very differently is in Xenophon's recounting, as he was told by Hermocrates, Socrates, even before the trial, had basically committed himself to death. He was certain he was going to be executed, and he was perfectly contented with it. So, like, for instance, according to Hermogenes, according to Xenophon, restating what Hermogenes told him, Socrates said, "But now, if my years are prolonged, I know that the frailties of old age will inevitably be realized, that my vision must be less perfect and my hearing less keen, that I shall be slower to learn and more forgetful of what I have learned. I perceive my decay to take to complaining how," he continued to say, "could I any longer take pleasure in life?" So it's basically saying I would rather go while I still have my faculties than deteriorate in age. The only close thing that Plato has in here to like something similar, and this is again him being sort of just a bit of a contrarian even at his trial. According to Plato, he said, once they had sentenced him to death, "If you had waited for a while, your desire would have been fulfilled in the course of nature. For I am far advanced in years, as you may perceive, and not far from death." So both accounts say he
Was defined.
wasn't afraid of
Yeah,
dying.
he had a pretty kick-ass like end
Yeah.
line, like is what both accounts, but they just wrote it differently.
Yeah, but
It's so philosopher of it.
yeah.
I put my spin on this shit.
This is such a negative episode on philosophy. I don't think we like philosophy.
I will
here.
invite someone. If someone listens to this and they're like a philosophy major and they can prove it, or have already got a degree, we'll invite you on. We'll do an interview and we'll talk, and you can convince us why we're being too hard on philosophy. That's a fair thing.
Yeah, so just some other things that he said that were a bit he basically told them like my conviction is not a result of my not having the words to defend myself, rather my refusal to do it in the manner you want me to do, begging and crying and pleading. And he says, "I won't do that. It would dishonor me to do that." And he said he won't repent for the style of his defense. And he says, this is a quote, "I would rather die having spoken after my manner than speak in your manner and live."
Yeah, Socrates should be played by Vin Diesel.
But this is interesting. The last, I pulled this paragraph. It's part of the last bit of the last paragraph. It's the ending of Plato's Apology, and the last thing that Socrates says. "Still, I have a favor to ask." He's referring to the people who accused him, who put him on trial here. "Still, I have a favor to ask of them. When my sons grow up, I would ask you, O my friends, to punish them, and I would have you trouble them as I have troubled you. If they seem to care about riches or anything more than about virtue, or if they pretend to be something when they are really nothing, then reprove them as I have reproved you, for not caring about that for which they ought to care, and thinking that they are something when they are really nothing. And if you do this, both I and my sons will have received justice at your hands. The hour of my departure has arrived, and we go our ways, I to die, and you to live. Which is better? God only knows.
You dumb guy that one down for us a little bit. Or
He's saying,
for dumb guys
so
out there, not me.
Socrates apparently did have children. He's basically saying, hold my sons to the standards that I held you to, that I held myself to. He's like, if they claim to be something they're not, call them out on it. If they value this wealth and these surface level things over true virtue, then reprimand them for it. Hold them to a moral standard that I held all of you. Again, they shared the commonality that he was somewhat defiant and contrarian in his death, which he was known for.
And this is him being executed by an authoritarian government, right?
Well,
no, this was by vote.
Yeah, by
this
vote.
wasn't during the reign of 30?
No.
Okay.
No. This is him being executed essentially, by a republic, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so that brings us to our next person, Critias, who the second dialogue... Well, I'll go cover this one. Timaeus, who the first dialogue is named after. He either did not exist or he was someone who was not of historical significance and there's no real record of
Lost
him.
the time.
Yeah. So,
did Plato use him in any other writings?
No.
Did Plato often use fake characters that had no...
No, he used a lot of... He used well-known people.
Which makes it seem like he probably did exist.
He could have been a real person, yeah. He also talks about Plato's cosmology, so he could have very easily just been someone Plato made up to say his cosmology. Yeah. So Critias, who the second dialogue is named after, this is the source. Encyclopedia Britannica didn't have a page on him for some reason. I got his this is my tangentially for you biographical information from the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy. So Critias was a highborn, wealthy family, wealthy for generations, also second cousin of Plato. They had a common descendant through Plato's mother. I don't know how it was on Critias' side. He was a poet, philosopher, statesman, soldier. He seemed to be kind of an asshole from an early age. He was pretty famously an atheist and felt that religion was used to scare people into being moral. One of the earliest things he comes up in is the desecration of Hermes, which is a statue of Hermes was damaged at some point. He sort of comes up in that, but it's not known if he really participated in it or not. He is most famous. So the thing about Greece during this time is it wasn't a country. It was a collection of independent city-states that all hated each other.
Right, yeah.
They spoke the same language and worshipped the same deities, but they all hated each other. And after the Second Peloponnesian War, which is a war between Athens and Sparta, Sparta won, and they installed a puppet oligarchy that came to be known as the 30 Tyrants. So it was 30 very wealthy people that were put in charge. Their reign only lasted a few months. Critias was the leader of these 30 tyrants.
Okay.
And Critias was so bad that, like, these people are named the 30 tyrants. The 29 other tyrants thought this guy was a little much. Like, he was the most brutal and vicious among them.
Colin Quinn has that great joke where it's like, the Greeks were too busy sitting around thinking, and the Romans came along and conquered them. Was like, what do you think about that? Yeah. And Critias was the epitome of, what do you think about that, bitch type guy.
Critias was, it seemed like he was always kind of bad. He was always kind of a jerk, I guess, an asshole. Critias was a student of Socrates. What their relationship like, there was definitely a mutual respect between them. Their relationship seemed to sour during the reign of the 30 tyrants. Xenophon says in Memorabilia, a couple of just interesting quotes here. In his Memorabilia, which is Memories of Socrates. Memorabilia is all about Socrates. Socrates said about Critias, and he saw, there's a name here, Euthydemus. Euthydemus was a young man. I don't know much more about him, but he said, Critias seems to have the feelings of a pig. They can no more keep away from Euthydemus than pigs can help rubbing themselves against stones.
Damn. Slander.
He also said, it seems strange enough to me that a herdsman who lets his cattle decrease and go to the bad should not admit that he is a poor cowherd. But stranger still that a statesman, when he causes the citizens to decrease and go to the bad, should feel no shame nor think himself a poor statesman.
So, in other words, Critias is not he's in a higher echelon of society, obviously, but he's not a highly thought of individual even among his peers.
No, loathed.
Yeah.
So again, the relationship between them is not totally known. It is known that during the reign of the 30 tyrants, Socrates did openly defy Critias on certain things, and nothing ever happened to him. Socrates says at one point it's because the reign of the 30 came to an end very shortly afterwards, but it seems that Critias did have enough respect for Socrates that he let him get away with certain things. He did try to stop him, like, he did try to charge him with the same things that he was, like, later charged with in Athens, was, like, corrupting youth, and told him, like, he couldn't talk to the youth anymore. And the dialogue exchange is literally just Socrates asking question after question after question. Like, what's too young? Am I allowed to talk to the herdsman? Am I allowed to talk to the smiths? What if someone asked me how to find Critias? What should I tell
What a
them?
fucking dickhead.
Yeah. What if someone who's like 17 is like, hey, where's Critias? It's really important that I tell him. Do I talk to him? Or should I just look
Yeah, it's basically just question after question.
What a fucking snarky bitch.
What if the only way like I could save your son is if I speak words to him? Can I talk to him then? Like,
He
yeah,
very
basically.
obviously, he makes it very clear what he means, and he's just like, keeps asking fucking stupid ass questions. Yeah, I'd be pissed at this guy too.
But the 30 tyrants had a sort of method. The 30 tyrants, because normally oligarchies only go after sort of like the poor. 30 tyrants, no, they went after the other wealthy. They would convict
they ain't fucking around.
and kill or exile wealthy families and take their
Well,
their wealth for themselves. A lot of people were exiled. A lot of people fled. Among those was someone named Thrasybulus. He eventually gathered other exiles and attacked an outpost named Piraeus, a port outpost. Critias and the other tyrants, along with their army, went to fight them, and Critias was killed in that fight, and the 30 tyrants essentially came to an end then, and democracy came back for however brief that might have been. Athens traded democracy and tyranny back and forth for a while there. Plato doesn't talk much about Critias at all. They were cousins, but he doesn't say much about him. Plato was quite a bit younger than him, so
but thought enough about him to be like, all right, you're going to tell this part of the story in my
yes,
this planet story.
A lot of people don't think that it's a coincidence that he has the tyrant tell the story about a militaristic nation that tried to conquer.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
So there's different interpretations of this Atlantis story as well.
I mean, really, just like it could have been shade, like throwing a Critias, like, yeah, the tyrant dick is who I'm going to have talk about the military aspect and the gods aspect of the story.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
The fourth character here is Hermocrates. He doesn't speak very much. This one is where it gets a little because there's some dispute about who Hermocrates is, but the general consensus seems to be of this one individual. He was a Syracusian, not an Athenian. He was a diplomat and a soldier. He headed the defense of Syracuse against Athens. He fought against Athens in the Peloponnesian War. He was a moderate Democrat who was eventually, while he was away at war, radical Democrats took over, and he was exiled. And in an attempt to get back into Syracuse, he was killed. Which we'll get into those dates and stuff here. Well,
Can we go over the names one more time? Because I am.
Yeah,
as well
I'm going to go
getting
over
lost in
everything
the
right now
names a
because
bit.
if you look at what you'll see now on your screen, So let me put this this way, and you guys tell me if this seems wrong to you. So some people take this as Plato telling a story that he actually heard, that it's actually a true story.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, if you accept that what Plato said about Atlantis is true, then you have to accept everything in this is true.
Yes, that's my logic behind that. I mean, there could be grains of truth in all of it, but
my thing here is because this all takes place during a conversation. So to me, if you're going to assume that Plato is telling the truth about the story of Atlantis, he had to have been telling the truth that this conversation actually happened.
yes,
Yeah,
I would
sure.
grant that. But the intellectual dinner party that we were talking about before in Story Beneath, the table is set. These are the characters that actually attended this dinner party that we quickly kind of gone over in Story Beneath.
Yes. So here's the thing about that. If this conversation actually did take place, then there are two possible scenarios. One is that Plato was there to witness this conversation and write it down. Two is that he heard about it later and wrote it down.
Sure, because this story is written after all of these people's deaths, right?
So probably yes.
Okay.
So Plato's works are generally divided up into sort of 3 eras.
Sure.
I did find some dates on them, but I wasn't able to substantiate them well
Exactly,
enough
of
for me
course
to
not,
Yeah.
of course.
feel comfortable with them. But Critias and Timaeus are considered into sort of his later era, toward the end of his life. So these would have, if they do fall into that, they would have been written well after these people passed away.
Sure.
So I charted their lives to try and figure out, like, when could this have because this conversation would have had to have taken place. So when could it have taken place? So you see, the earliest data point is Socrates' birth. The latest is Plato's death. It's a 122-year span between those 2 events. Now, Plato's life, his birth year is sometimes given at like 428, 427. Sometimes it's 423, 424. I put it at 428 because it gives the most leeway.
Okay.
Because it's the earliest one and it gives the most time here. As you can see, Socrates was born in 470, executed in 399. Hermocrates, I couldn't find any source on his birth, but he died in 408 attempting to re-enter Syracuse. Critias was born in 460, and then he died in 403 attempting to stop a coup attempt, I guess you would call it. Plato was born in 428, died in 348 of natural causes. And the reign of the 30 tyrants took place over, and I put that in there because we know that, as I pointed out, Plato and Critias' relationship seemed strained during that period. So, mapping all that out, and I might have to readjust that overlap number. I don't know if that's...
I was
no,
going to
it's
say,
right.
well, how is that right? Because it says Hermocrates here died in 408.
But we don't know.
Yeah,
But
so...
we don't know.
So listen,
Yeah.
I brought out the overlap. This is the only time. This is the period of time in which all 4 of these people were alive.
Okay. I see.
It was a 20-year period. That's starting with Plato's birth and ending with Hermocrates' death.
So how old would Plato be here for our audio listeners?
That, I mean, literally, it would have to happen.
He could have been at the oldest 20.
Yeah.
Okay.
The oldest 20. So he would have to have overheard this conversation, most likely as a teenager, essentially,
Yes.
and then recalled it decades later
Yes.
and be like, oh, yeah, here's this kick-ass conversation I once had that really applies
Yes.
to Athens right now.
Yeah. So could this conversation have taken place? Sure. But given that there's no evidence that that Hermocrates ever went to Athens to begin with, and Socrates, there's no records of Socrates leaving Athens. Again, he wasn't a wealthy person. He wasn't a diplomat.
Yeah.
Anything like
He
that.
wasn't a well-traveled fellow.
He was known to stay in Athens and just spend all his time in the agora talking to people and asking them questions. Like he didn't leave. So there is a 20-year
Socrates, will you
period.
please clean up the fucking
Yeah.
agora? It's a mess. Why should I clean up it? Because it's disgusting. None of us want to be here. Why do you want to be here? It's up to you. You say interesting things. Oh, you think what I say is interesting. Why is that? That's all you got to do, George.
Yeah, this was just something I had to do for my own, just for my sake of my own curiosity, to find out when this conversation could it have taken place.
Sure.
Yeah, but
Was
it's a
it
very
likely-
narrow time frame for it to have taken place,
With people
and
who
for
didn't
Plato
like each other.
to be there to hear it.
Yeah.
With people who didn't like each other, and from all we have said so far, it seems that they weren't even very well acquainted with each other at this point.
There's no evidence Hermocrates was acquainted with any of these people.
Yeah, that's
He
what I'm
probably
saying.
he probably would have known who Critias is at the very least because
Sure.
they were prominent figures in the warring
Prominent
cities.
political figures.
Yeah. Again, evidence of Socrates being known outside of Athens is kind of hard to come by. He seemed to be like only
A local folklore
legend.
outside.
Yeah.
Plato kind of immortalized.
Yeah, Plato spread it from Plato to for Socrates to Plato to Aristotle. Their reach and fame just got more and more bigger and widespread as you go
Sure.
down that line. Aristotle was by far the most famous of the period during his time.
So we're saying it's very possible. It seems very unlikely that a conversation between these 3 individuals.
Yeah.
I
ever
think
actually
it's
took
I
place.
think it's pretty insane to take this story at face value anyway.
You're gonna think it's more insane when I get into it.
To me, this
Because
screams
we're like half hour
cautionary
in already,
tale.
and we haven't even gotten into this, so I'm gonna get
Okay.
going on this. So the first dialogue is Timaeus. All these people sit down. They talk about how they had talked the day before. This is supposed to take place after the Republic. It does say, because he references sort of the previous conversation about the Republic. And they mention a fifth person who was there the day before but is not, and he never really comes up again. Socrates.
It's so weird that when they write this stuff, they just like stick in a random character. Oh yeah, dude was here before. He's gone now. It's really not fucking important. Let's move on. They really need to take a writing class. Is all I'm saying.
No, they had to get in their buddy, bro. You know, it's like some dude that he met like a few years ago. They had a few
Gives him a
drinks.
name drop.
Yeah,
Like he name drops someone in a hip hop song
Yeah.
that's coming.
I feel like I unironically feel like that's the point. Like not even as a joke.
All right.
But as this conversation starts, Socrates sits down and Socrates opens it and tells them he wants them to entertain him with a story.
Sure.
And ask if they remember what they discussed the day before, and they sort of recount the previous discussions of the day, and ask if they remember because he had tasked them with this the day before to entertain him with a story. He asked them if they remember what it was, and they say, "Yeah, you wanted us to entertain you with a story." Or
He's like you when you're being like a dungeon master. He's like, someone want to tell me what happened for an inspiration dialogue?
What is-
Something, man?
The way Plato writes dialogue, sometimes he's like, "Yes, we do all remember, but for the sake of everyone's sake, would you repeat it?"
It's how he does exposition.
Yeah, he's a shit writer.
Just in case.
Yeah. Socrates restates he wanted them to tell him a story of the state in its most perfect form, specifically Athens, acting in its most perfect form. Again, he restates things from the day before.
We covered this pretty well on Slurp
Yeah.
as well.
But he does say some criteria. One, a struggle against its neighbors, went to war in a becoming manner, and when at war showed greatness of action and magnanimity of words in dealing with other cities as a result worthy of its training and education. So those are the criteria he set forth. And Hermocrates is like, "Yeah, we can actually meet your request." And he's like, "Critias, tell him what you told us on the way home yesterday." And Critias is like, "Oh yeah, I remember. I just remember. I'd forgotten it. But when you said this, I remember the story that my grandfather had told me when he was 90 and I was 10.
That's so specific.
Yeah, he says it specifically. It was sometime, I think it was his grandfather, also named Critias, who I now, from here on, if I'm bringing him up, will refer to as Grandpa Critias. He says, I had forgotten this story, basically, but hearing you say that, I remembered it, and I, told my fellows here and told them what I remembered, and then he specifically says that he had to remember the details before he could restate the story. So he says basically he had forgotten the story and then had to remember it. Super accurate.
Yeah, just give me a second to really think about the story I heard. Get all the details together.
He basically tells the story like his grandfather's 90th birthday or whatever it was, and someone, I guess he assumes trying to suck up to his grandfather, says like, "Oh yes, Solon, you know Solon. He was a friend of your family. He was a great speaker and a great man." Which a brief bit about Solon. He's not a major character in this, but he's not a huge character, but he's an important character. Solon was a real person. He did travel a lot, specifically to Egypt, specifically Sais, the city we'll talk about in here. A very well-respected person. He was pretty interesting in that he was, we've all heard of draconian, say it's draconian.
Yeah.
Solon is the person who literally overturned draconian law.
Oh.
It was a law set out by Draco. But Solon was interesting in that Solon was basically handed absolute power to create law in Athens. And he did, and then he gave it up. Which was a big mistake, because as soon as he gave it up and left, it completely got overturned. He made good laws. Like, people respected his laws very much.
So let me get this straight. A dude named Draco was
Yes.
like an authoritarian ruler.
See, I don't know how authoritarian he is. I don't know if he was just strict or authoritarian.
Sure.
I
Solon
need
did
you to
overturn.
abide by these unreasonable rules.
Solon
I
did change a
will
lot of his
do
laws,
what
but
I
not
want.
all of
Oh,
them.
yeah, sure, but like he was a not popular leader at the very least.
No, I mean they changed his laws.
Sure.
But Solon was basically like, yeah, he's like they gave him absolute power to make these rules.
And this really happened?
Yeah, yeah.
This is crazy. Like these names, dude.
And-
Like
Hey,
Draco
We're
and
in
Solon.
Greek, baby. Like, this is great stuff. man.
But they changed the rules, and some of them weren't popular. Yeah, again, it's natural. Some of
Yeah,
them,
of
but
course.
he was like, well, they're going to ask me to overturn these, and I don't want to. So if I just leave, they can't ask me to overturn them. So he just left, and
the
then
brattiest shit in the world.
but his laws were very fair. It was democratic.
Mhm.
You know, fair laws. But he left, so they went over asked him to overturn his laws, and someone else took power and overturned it all and went back to
Yeah.
a dictatorship. It didn't last long.
Dude, at some point you gotta like you gotta inscript these somehow. After like the 5th fascist coup, you would think they'd be like, all right, we should probably figure out how
Athens
to.
did not learn their
Yeah,
lesson.
no, the fashion shit never works out either. They're just like, well, let's just try the fascist thing one more
No,
time. Maybe
over the
the
over the next 200 something
democracy
years,
thing's really easy to conquer.
over the next 200 something years after Solon, they traded back and forth
Yeah,
democracy
sure.
and
You would just think eventually they would
dictatorship.
inscribe this. I don't even know how you would
You
do
mean some
it.
sort of constitution?
Oh, they did.
Maybe.
No, they did. Draco had them inscribed and placed in common areas throughout the town. Solon did the same thing. He just had his laws placed over Draco's, but all the laws were inscribed and placed
But it
publicly.
doesn't matter
Where
whenever,
they could be seen.
like, you know, a dictator.
Yeah, exactly.
During this time, during Plato's time, Solon was an ancestor of both Critias and Plato, and he was very well respected. So both Plato and anyone else using his name would have given credence to something
Right.
during this period. And which is basically what this Critias says this guy was doing with his grandfather, like just trying to get points.
Yeah. Sure.
And he said Critias or Solon would have actually been much more famous had he told this. There's this one story that he didn't tell because as soon as he returned from his trip, he had to deal with the issues in Athens, and he never told this story publicly. But he told it to my grandpa Critias' father, Dropides. Which, by the way, Critias' family line used the names Critias and Dropides like over and over again through generations. They use those names.
Not confusing for anyone probably
Yeah.
researching. That's
Yeah, but he says like, yeah, he told my grandfather or my father Dropides this, and I like Critias was there. Grandpa Critias was there for it, but he was telling it to his dad, but Grandpa Critias was there. So just to be clear, the line of this story, we talked about it in Story Beneath, but the line of the story, just so far, is Solon to Grandpa Critias to Plato. That's who the story's gone through already.
ancient game of telephone.
They said it was a story of the old and great and marvelous actions of the Athenian city. And Critias says, he'll says the story of the greatest actions that Athenians ever did. He learned about it in the Egyptian city of Sais from a priest of Neith, which Neith is the Greek Egyptian goddess of war. And I'll come to this in a minute, but the Greeks considered Neith and Athena to be the same.
Okay.
They shared a lot of commonalities. Goddesses of war. There were some other things they had in common. They might have been like I wasn't able to find anything on where these came from. They might have branched from a similar deity somewhere up the
Sure.
line, but Athenians at that time at least considered them to be pretty much the same person. So when Solon's talking to these priests, he asks them, about antiquity. He wants ancient knowledge, and they said that a lot of other civilizations have been destroyed over and over again, so things didn't get passed down through them. There's no uninterrupted trail of knowledge
Right.
for those cities. Athens being one of them, but Egypt hadn't suffered that, so they had this uninterrupted chain of knowledge
Which
that
there
goes
is
back to
truth.
this original story. Well,
In some ways too.
Egyptian history did have turmoil. It
Yeah.
wasn't peaceful, but Athens didn't have any significant catastrophes, really.
Yeah,
Well, I'll get to the
sure.
history of that. I will get into the history of that. But he said before all these civilizations were destroyed, there was the first war that took place like a long time ago that only Egyptians really know about anymore. So Solon's like, tell me the story. And the priest agrees and recounts it for him. So there's some interesting details. He says in this that there are two cities, Athens and Sais, which in Sais they worshipped Neith, and Athens they worshipped Athena, obviously. He says their mutual goddess founded their two cities. Athens, 9,000 years prior, and Egypt, 8,000 years prior. So he's saying that the original Athens was 1,000 years older than Egypt. Now, so at the time, again,
Was Plato an atheist?
no.
No. Okay.
So here's the thing about Plato's timeline here. You could forgive him for not knowing
Yeah.
exactly, because here's the thing about actual timelines. So, according to Encyclopedia Britannica, the first signs of habitation in Athens, it's been inhabited, not necessarily settled, but there have been humans there since the Neolithic, so before 3000 BC.
Right.
The first signs of like buildings, of actual structures, is around 1200 BC. There's no evidence of complete or widespread destruction of Athens
At
since
any point in time.
Yes. Egypt, according to the British Museum, was first settled. The Nile Valley first started to be settled around 11,000 BC. This includes homes, growing crops,
yeah,
husbandry.
Literally, Egypt's, what is that, 1,000, 2,000, almost 2,000 years older? Is that right? Is that the math right?
No, much longer than that.
Much longer
I
than-
didn't hear
okay.
this first day. I thought it was like way.
First inhabitants in Athens around the 3000s.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
so-
almost like
wait.
8,000, 9,000 years.
So Egypt's been a society.
Egyptians first started using writing, a crude form of hieroglyphs, around 3250 BC.
Just really quick,
Again, around the time Athens was just being
I just want
inhabited.
to point out something too. It's just so funny that the story of Atlantis, it shows so similarities still though. Like the little things that like Plato's doing to be like, well, Athens is older. Like, yeah, Egypt's been around longer and like seems way smarter, but Athens is low key way older and cooler. Like it's those little
same
things. It's
thing,
the Dolly
yeah.
shit. Yeah, it's the same
Same
shit.
shit.
And Himmler did it too. Himmler also believed like, yeah, Egypt's cool, but like they did it because of white Atlanteans, and the white Atlanteans that I believe in had all their secrets in the pyramids. So we really need to go take the thing apart. Like that's like, it's like the same kind of weird shit where they hold up this great society, but it's also like, but it's really because like we're better. Than them,
yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah.
So speaking of pyramids, the Great Pyramids, the three Great Pyramids of Giza, were built from like the 26 to 2500 BC. So the pyramids were built before Athens was building just temples.
Yeah.
So Egyptian civilization much
older.
They
Yeah.
had writing before Athens was a civilization. So, and you can't blame Plato for not knowing this necessarily. I'm not sure what our historical knowledge was back in the day,
Sure.
so you could give him some leeway there.
But still, that weird caveat where
But
it's
if
like,
you're
well, you had to
talking
know.
about-
You had to know because he's like, well, Egypt seems older because they have such a long timeline. We don't have such a long timeline of our history. But we know Athens is way older.
In my opinion, this was just him giving credibility to how his explanation of like why wouldn't Athenians know the story if we were involved in it. It's just his out for it.
Sure.
Oh.
Yeah.
It was the story over and over again, so we won't have the knowledge. That's just what it is to me.
Why it's not already here.
Because he hasn't hit we were actually the first people to invent writing, which is like a common theme with all of these
It's
lost
not here. I'm
cities
just
for some
saying it's
reason.
interesting that the nuggets are still kind of there.
Yeah,
Same
yeah,
kind of-
yeah.
It's not full blown, I don't think, in the story. We'll see.
But he said this in this story, Athens exceeded all mankind in all virtue. And it says it's the story of a mighty power that made an unprovoked expedition against the whole of Europe and Asia, and Athens put an end to it. So some of the details he says about this. It says the power came from the Atlantic, an island situated in front. Now remember where Donnelly said this was. This is what Plato says in his story. An island situated in front of the Pillars of Heracles. So the Strait of Gibraltar.
Yeah.
He doesn't say outside of it. He says in front of it. That may seem like, semantics,
Yeah.
but I don't think it is. Now, in front of it might technically be outside of it, but in front of it means straight line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like right there.
Which is not where Donnelly supposed it to be.
Yeah.
Very off. It says it was the way to other islands, and from there, I talked about this with Donnelly. He mentioned this. From there, you could pass to the opposite continent that surrounded the true ocean. A lot of people say, "Well, how do you know there was a continent on the other side?" As if he couldn't have just made it up.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, maybe there's land here, so there's probably land over there. It seems to be a pretty educated guy.
yeah.
People taking this completely literally are
Well,
doing
it's
it
the same thing where it's like
I'm
people,
sorry.
It's the same. It's like people can't comprehend that. Like, what they thought? They just thought that like there was this infinite ocean after this, and the land was so special here. Like, no, they knew that there was lands across these big ocean gaps. So we haven't been over there, but logic dictates there'll be more land over there eventually.
I don't even think it comes down to a logic thing. He's trying to tell a fucking story here. It doesn't matter if it's
Yeah.
real or not.
He does try to give some credibility to it, I think, but it's a story.
I'm just trying to be an open mind.
I don't
to
think
it.
he's trying to be a
and
scientist
deconstruct it
here.
a
I
little
think
bit.
he's trying to tell a cautionary fucking tale.
He is. But the island,
Don't spoil the ending.
the
There is
island
no ending.
contained the island contained a great and wonderful empire that had rule over the whole island and several others. It had rule over parts of the continent, and it subjected the parts within the Pillars of Heracles, as far as Egypt and Europe, as far as Tyrrhenia, which is out Italy, I believe.
Okay.
So, pretty big reach. Like, basically, like all of the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Sure.
They're an
He's
empire.
Yeah, he's setting the scene for an empire. What he's
Yeah,
saying
but-
is that they're very large and very powerful.
Which he says they conquered those areas.
Yeah.
They have. He said they gathered into one and endeavored to subdue at a blow Egypt and Greece and the whole region within the straits.
So that's where they were. When did they get to Germany and perfect the race there?
Doesn't mention it.
Oh, that's weird.
Of course, Germany I don't think was a country at this
Weird.
time.
Or that area, Deutschland. I don't
know if it was even like
no
one. Again,
way that's what it's called.
a lot of like modern countries probably weren't countries back then. They were just like loose.
It's just weird. It
city
seems like
states and things like
he
that.
was the first guy who did it would mention that like the Aryans went over there. Since they're like the ultimate society according to
But I
that
said,
timeline. That they lived in.
again, Greece shone forth in the. I wrote Greece. It might have been Athens in the thing. I might have been just wrote it wrong in this, but it says they shone forth in their excellence of her virtue and strength among all mankind. They were preeminent in courage and skill, and under extreme danger, defeated the invaders alone, and preserved those who were not yet subjugated from slavery, and liberated those who were.
So Athens was a superhero who stood against Atlantean takeover.
Yeah. These are some important details to just remember these details for a little bit later. Afterwards, after Athens repelled Atlantis, there were violent earthquakes and floods, and in a single day and night, all warlike men in a body sank into the earth. So remember those phrases, because those are important. And the island disappeared into the depths, and the sea is now impassable.
It's a weird element of that. Why
The sea is now impassable. Yeah. That is
So I
weird.
looked into this.
is that kind of
'cause-
much like so don't go look for it?
Yeah, that's what it
No,
sounds
so
like.
it seems like because Plato mentions in here that beyond the Strait of Gibraltar, Pillars of Heracles, it's impassable. It's a mud shoal.
Oh,
I'll
so
look-
where he's basically it's like where the
No, I looked into this, and it seems to have been. It does seem to have been a belief of that time, but not a widespread one.
So had no one ever traveled across that strait before?
I guess Greek people hadn't.
Okay.
I find it hard to believe. Like the Phoenicians,
That's super
the
weird to me.
Phoenicians they were a maritime civilization. They had trading posts all throughout the Mediterranean. I have a hard time believing they never went through the strait themselves.
Well, hold
I don't
on.
know if they did.
Hold
this
on,
was
but
never-
aren't they associated with the Jewish race and not a pure white race? How did they expand out
Plato,
faster than.
that's Donnelly. This is a different subject. You're going back a few weeks.
I know. I'm just saying, like their source doesn't even line up with the bullshit that they're preaching. Like the source information doesn't even line up with the bullshit they.
Well, to me, because it seems like it almost seems like an excuse to not go search for it. But from what you're saying, that this was a belief among many people, right?
Yeah, it seems to be. From what I like. This is something there's no real evidence for.
And
it just seems to have been mentioned by more people than
We
Plato.
know things changes. We know that there's some tectonic plates there. It could have shifted, and now it's passable.
I mean, it literally could have been like a couple Greek ships had some trouble
Yeah.
there for some reason, and it just became a rumor that spread through that area.
Very odd to me because like this is I guess is superpower the right word? I feel like that works here. This is like a somewhat superpower nation that definitely has traveled the seas before, but it looks at like a strait and is like, no, this.
Well, Greece at this time I wouldn't call superpowered.
Sure.
They were they did have a navy and armada and stuff. So
I mean, they weren't incompetent at sailing though.
No, but again, it could have been like one person tried it, and
yes, it's pointless, buddy. Like someone with respect comes back and it's like it's pointless to go that way. Like he failed trying to save face.
Yeah.
And the rumor spread. I could see that.
Yeah, Critias says he forgot many of the details and had to remember them overnight to retell the story.
Yeah. We know how
And he
that works.
says, and this is another important detail. He says the ancient city of Athens will fulfill the criteria that Socrates set forth. So this is an important detail. The story of Atlantis is not the story of Atlantis. It's the story of Athens.
They're saying that the Athens is.
Atlantis is just they're the protagonist of the story.
They're a bad guy.
They're not the heroes of the story.
So racists couldn't even identify with the good guys.
They
identify with the fucking stormtroopers. in the story.
Which is the common theme between like racists in any era, it seems.
I thought the Homelander was the good guy.
Yeah, the boys has gone woke. I've heard people say that.
I know.
So
All
Critias says this, and he's like, "But I will speak more on this later. It's time for Timaeus to speak." And Timaeus basically, like, I don't know why Plato decided to do it this way, but Timaeus is like, "I'm going to speak from the creation of everything up until humanity exists, and then Critias will take over."
It's me when I'm writing a story. It's my narrative.
He's like, I gotta build out the lore, man. I really gotta build out the lore here,
bro.
And I'm not going to talk about any of that stuff because it's not relevant.
Okay, so here's the language that Lanigan spoke. We write that down in a dictionary. Explain their diction and their their vowel consonant, how that works there. And I like.
So you're telling me this whole first book is him recounting like?
It's a summary.
Okay.
It's a summary. The first one is just a summary of it, like an overview of it.
I got you.
I can see that getting bogged down in the details though, like that. You're like,
No, I do
what
it.
happened yesterday in my story?
Yeah. You got a world build, you know?
So that leads into the second dialogue, Critias. They again do like a little recap at the beginning. And Timaeus finishes talking, and Socrates restates some of the details of basically like that's some of the same stuff they said at the beginning of Critias. So Timaeus is done. So Critias he picks up right off where he left off. They restate things. I mean, you can cut this. I kind of lost track where it was at.
Yeah, we will. Sorry.
So he's like, "All right, Critias, your turn to tell your story." So Critias goes into a story, recounts, like, again, this was attested by Solon. Says Solon told it to him.
Runs the history back down again in case you didn't read part one.
So,
it's last time on Dragon Ball Z.
He's doing a recap. Yeah, he is.
So there's an interesting detail here. The priest says, he goes back to telling Solon heard from the priest. So remember those dates I told you earlier about when the priest states that this war that took place, where Athens defeated Atlantis, took place 9,000 years ago. Now, if you remember the dates I told you about when he said the cities were founded.
He's contradicted himself already.
Yeah. So he says Egypt was conquered by Atlantis, but they didn't exist until 8,000 years ago. But this war with Atlantis was defeated 9,000.
So how do they conquer a city
that didn't exist?
It doesn't matter because it's fiction.
No, but this is just shitty writing. This is the continuity area, which also shows that Plato probably wrote these 2 dialogues. Like, wrote the first one, like, great, that's pretty sweet. I gotta get. Oh man, I'm gonna write the sequel. Like 5 years later, forgot his own dates.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. I thought no, he could just be wrong, right? Like he could just be like thinking that civilizations lasted longer than it actually has.
No, because he specifically mentions the dates in part 1, and then he mentions the whole other date. Like basically, what he's saying is that Egypt didn't exist at the time. According to him, in the first
according
one,
to his own date, that
according to his
Egypt
own
didn't
dates,
exist
Egypt
at the
didn't exist
time.
yet. But now he's saying Atlantis conquered them at a time when they didn't
No,
exist.
dude, this is unfinished. This is unfinished. This is me like my first draft on like chapter 2. Like, I feel like oh fuck, I forgot I wrote
Look, I gotta
that.
go back. I gotta do continuity edits. Yeah.
So, so again, date
Yeah.
incorrectly. So one side of this war was led by Athens, the other by the kings of Atlantis. So he says he's going to describe Athens and Atlantis and their respective governments, which he does. He goes into great detail about the Athens of the time.
Yeah,
These all reflect Plato's Republic. They
Okay.
reflect the virtues. I'm not going to go into all of them because
What he believes, which
what makes a perfect government.
yeah.
I mean, you would learn this in like social studies classes in elementary school.
Sure.
yeah, created by Athena. So an important point here. He says the gods were each allotted a specific plot of land that was theirs to rule over. Poseidon got the island that would be Atlantis. Athena got Athens. Athena and her brother Hephaestus. They created Athens. The Athenians were naturally adapted for wisdom and virtue. They had class systems. They had the best land in the world.
Yeah,
Capable
he's
of
just talking
supporting a
about
vast
Athens.
army.
Yeah, he's just
Yeah.
talking about Athens.
Yeah.
So heroic.
They were the most illustrious men of the day, and they
Isn't Athens so cool, you guys? We all agree.
specified that they were a civilization of about 20,000.
Was there a chance of him being like labeled a heretic or something? Because this is like a little blowy even for like philosophers.
Plato, no.
Okay.
So interestingly
I
enough,
mean, Plato died of old age. It seemed like he kept his head down pretty good.
well, so the thing is, after Socrates was executed, Plato and a lot of his other students fled Athens. Plato traveled a lot. He did come back to Athens, but he did travel a lot.
Okay.
So then he goes on about Atlantis. So there's an important detail he states here, and this is Plato covering his ass here. So all the names you're going to hear are at the time. Well, as I'm saying them, they're like Latinizations of the names they were translated to, but they're all going to be in Hellenic names, which was what they called it back then. He rationalizes this by saying the Egyptians wrote the names down in their own language, and then Solon inquired about what those names meant, and then wrote the Hellenic equivalent. So that's why all the names in the story are Hellenic, even though it's an Egyptian story. Yeah. So again, Poseidon's allotment was Atlantis. So Poseidon got his land. He got this island. And on this island, there were natives. There were 2 men and a woman and their daughter. After the parents died, said the woman had she was a grown woman when her parents died, and Poseidon fell in love with her, and so this is where like my interpretation. I'm not sure how to interpret this. So you guys tell me if this is how you feel as well. I'm going to tell you how I interpreted it. I'm going to tell you the thing. And
let's see.
He said that he fell in love with her, had intercourse with her, and breaking the ground formed the island.
So he banged her so hard it broke the ground, and
That's what it sounds like to me.
Dude,
I don't know if it's like
someone needs to teach Poseidon he can't just pound all the time.
that's what it sounds like to me. I don't know if it's a thing about the language or whatever, but it sounds like he banged her so hard that he broke the
I didn't
ground.
know
And
this
formed
is going to
the-
get sexy. I'm excited now. But he needs to communicate with us. Like, let's turn it into an advice podcast. You need to communicate with her. Sometimes you might like it rough and hard, Poseidon. Other times you might want it sensual and slow, like you see in like a romantic movie. You know?
Why
And
were
it's
they like
important
this?
that you communicate with her, Poseidon.
Why were the Greeks like this?
Why is Don Don
Like-
the horniest anime
like-
ever invented? Most animes horny. Like, that's because we're horny.
You just said objectively wrong things. like calling Don the most horny
No, it's
anime
wrong.
ever
It's pretty
made
horny.
is very,
no, but
very
I followed that up.
objectively wrong.
I followed that up with all anime's horny, and it's super popular right now. I'm just saying, people are horny. Like it's just like it gets to all their stories. The Greeks
Yeah.
are different.
Yeah. So
So Poseidon fucked someone so hard the ground broke.
Yeah.
Made a whole new
So-
island city.
yeah. So his wife's name Cleto. Her name was Cleto. Cleto. I'm gonna call it Cleto.
Played
But yeah, fell in love with her.
Dude.
Apparently banged her so hard he broke the ground,
Sweet.
and formed what would become the topography of Atlantis.
He banged some mountain. He banged some mountains into existence. A beautiful waterfall.
So he described it. It's the hill in which she dwelt was enclosed all around, making alternate zones of sea and land, larger and smaller, encircling one another. 2 of land, 3 of water, turned as a lathe, so meaning very precise is how I interpret that. Each having its circumference equidistant in every way from the center, and no man could get to the island. No ships or voyages could reach the island.
So Lance is just chilling there, isolated.
Yeah. He brought up springs, one cool, one warm. They had 5 pairs of twin male children. Divided the island into 10 portions. Each of them got a portion.
And here's where the gods of
Kings of Atlantis.
Kings of Atlantis. Sorry,
Yeah.
that Donnelly decided were gods.
Yeah. So, the oldest son, Atlas, was made the king. The others were made princes. And again, they each had rule over their own area. Donnelly mentioned that the names of the kings of Atlantis are the names of Phoenician gods. They're not. I searched these names. The only name that has any significance is Atlas, and because it was taken from Atlas, the god Atlas.
Yeah.
The other names, they have no. No, that's not true. There's one. Diaprepes is a species of weevil.
Oh, okay.
So
cool.
you know.
Cool. The more you know.
The legacy of Atlanta. The weevils came from Atlantis.
That is the master race. The weevils are
Yeah.
meant to inherit the earth.
I like this conspiracy. I like this one a lot.
So yeah, they and their descendants inhabited and ruled for generations. They had immense wealth. Atlantis provided everything. Any kind of fruit you need. The ground provided anything that you
Sounds
possibly
so communist to me. I can see why they lost the war with that.
And where Donnelly kind of gets this, it does say plants that were cultivated. So any plant that seemed of cultivation had there, does mention elephants as being there. So, Donnelly didn't pull that out of
Make that
nowhere.
up, yeah.
A great number of elephants, actually.
Just the best. It's so many fucking.
Why? Why is he obsessed with elephants? All of a
So
sudden?
again, all the plants grew in fertile abundance. They had temples, harbors, palaces. It goes into the arrangement of the city in
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, we.
great detail.
Let me tell you about the street names real quick and where that came from.
He's world building.
Yeah.
He actually is.
No, he genuinely is. He
Yeah.
goes into so much detail here. He gives measurements in stadia, which is a measurement they used back then. I was never able to find a definitive answer on what that would be equivalent to in the modern world. It seems kind of
Well, getting
Big.
lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But- big.
I think it's fine, like some guy's foot.
A mile? That's what I was guessing.
No,
Some guy.
it's not quite that big, I don't think.
Okay.
I think it's a little smaller than that, but I'm not sure. Each king had complete control. Poseidon regulated everything. The kings did have some rules. For instance, they couldn't fight each other. They had to go to support each other if any of the others needed it. But here's where this is where he goes into much less detail. He goes into excruciating detail. He goes into detail about the color of bricks they used and the measurements and everything. But this is where the lore part is where the detail falls off.
I identify with this. He got bored. He got bored. He world built and then was like,
Now I
fuck,
really need to get to the
man.
fucking story, but
Yeah, now I gotta do the actual plot. I built this whole world in my head, but like, fuck, man, I don't really want to write this. I feel this.
Yeah, it's like the way George R. R. Martin describes food, but then if he got bored, it was like, and then they just someone you don't expect just fucking dies. Okay, that's what happens next.
So basically, as time went on, they strayed further away from their virtue and their godliness,
Sure.
and they became more corrupt and decadent and everything. And the gods took notice of this,
Uh-oh.
particularly Zeus.
Spoiler.
So
Oh no, the big boy.
I'm going to read this. It's not the entire last paragraph of the book. It's
Okay.
most of the last, but it is the ending of the book. And
Ending in quotes.
yes, so there's some words, and I'll bring attention to it after I read it, but there's some words in here that I find kind of interesting.
Okay.
So, but then the divine portion began to fade away and became diluted too often and too much with the mortal admixture, and the human nature got the upper hand. They then, being unable to bear their fortune, behaved unseemly. And to him who had an eye to see, grew visibly debased. For they were losing the fairest of their precious gifts. But to those who had no eye to see the true happiness, they appeared glorious and blessed at the very time when they were full of avarice and unrighteous power. Zeus, the god of God, who rules according to law and is able to see into such things, perceived that an honorable race was in a woeful plight, and wanting to inflict punishment on them, that they might be chastened and improve, called all the gods into their most holy habitation, which, being placed in the center of the world, beholds all created things. And when he had called them all together, he spake as follows. And that's where it ends.
Cliffhanger.
But here's the line
Tune in next week.
Here's the line I wanted to draw attention to. So this line right here specifically, and wanting to inflict punishment on them, that they might be chastened and improve.
It'd be better.
So I didn't catch this the first time, but I caught this when I pulled this quote. If you remember, Atlantis and Athens and everything was destroyed by earthquakes and floods.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, he doesn't specify that this was caused by the gods, but it's I don't know this, but possible during that time they attributed natural disasters to the gods since they didn't have a better explanation for it.
Yeah.
So maybe when he says that, it's implied that the gods did it. I don't know, but he doesn't specify that the gods did that. But he does specify that all warlike men, Athens, Atlantis, everything, were destroyed completely. But right here he says that they might be chastened and improve. So here, he wants them to become better. He doesn't want to destroy them.
Because this isn't really about Atlantis.
Yeah, but that's a cop-out answer.
It's just the correct answer.
But no, if you're like assuming Plato's story, this doesn't make sense to me. And this might be explain because I don't see how Zeus went from I want them to do better to wipe everyone out.
Well, he doesn't finish the story.
Exactly.
That's what I think happened here.
But we're gonna see that character.
He was thinking.
I'm
Athens,
thinking
right.
I'm thinking Athens, and then end up going to war. Atlantis gets a little too big for its britches, and Zeus has sides with Athens because Athens is virtuous.
But he destroyed Athens too.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He destroyed sent all warlike men.
Yeah.
Can you translate that? All warlike men. What does that
Just
mean?
good, like men that are
The
soldiers. So there can't be
everyone
war.
involved in the war.
No more
is
fighting.
The way,
in other words.
the way it seems to be usually interpreted. But Egypt wasn't, because in Plato's story, Egypt has never suffered a destruction.
Yeah,
That's
they're
why they
fine.
remember it. So Egypt was not included in that. But Athens and Atlantis
What do you
were.
think the answer?
I think there was more to the story that he just didn't finish.
That
That's
was
what
my
I'm getting
guess.
at,
Like
too,
I
yeah.
think that he probably just said so that they could improve because it was like the last word he wrote on something, and it was like he was thinking of Atlantis.
I think
as
there was supposed to be
Athens.
more to the story or about what happened other than they became. Because maybe it could be just speculation. This is Zeus wants them to improve before they started conquering and going to war.
Yeah.
Maybe that started after they had become bad. And at that point, Zeus is like, well, they're all bad. Just fuck them all and kill them all.
Yeah. I don't
But-
know. We'll never know.
Or,
Really.
you know, Greek gods are pretty fucked up. Maybe this is how he saw that they could improve. I don't know.
But I'm just,
Oh wait, I'm sorry. I was being my kayfabe racist character that I was being this entire episode. We do know what happened. The Atlanteans spread their society all across Europe, and it stopped in Germany, where it was clear that the Atlanteans were a supreme European Aryan race, and we have to stop impure bloodlines going forward and going from here on out.
This is really interesting to me.
Yeah, it was.
The-
I am fascinated by
but-
this.
the kind of point I'm trying to make through all this is like, even if you assume this is true, there's a lot of inconsistencies and inaccuracies in Plato's. Ignore the fact that it was spent 9,000 years being passed down through Egypt, then told to a person who told it to a person who told it to a person who told it to a person.
Golf rumors.
Yeah, there's no. That's like a 9,000 year game of telephone.
Yeah.
Like, you can't normally make it to the third person before it gets messed up, let alone 9,000 years.
Yeah, it's a fun game.
Like, I think if you're writing too as well, like, you identify a lot with what Plato's doing. Like, at least I did. Every
Yeah,
single
I
time
see
he
it,
did something,
right?
I identified with it heavily. Like, the analytic world building, I do that shit all the time. And then getting bored at, like, the plot lore part, being like, fuck, I built this world,
It
but now I
kinda
don't
seems
want
like
to
you
write
did.
this.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you guys, I skipped over it. He goes into excruciating detail.
Yeah. I mean, I do this shit all the time. It's weird how, like, much I identify with, like, because it's unfinished. This is an unfinished story. I pretty much come to that conclusion by myself.
Yeah, it's a, if you can, like, I didn't think Atlantis was real to begin with, but after reading it, I was like, this is obviously not intended to be
Yeah.
real.
Yeah. So this is wrapping up our series on Atlantis.
Yeah.
We finally did it.
Hopefully it was informative, entertaining. I don't know. It might have been a drudge at some point.
Infotainment.
But I'm not sorry because you guys had to share in my misery, and that's what I wanted the whole time.
So let's go the younger.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on Atlantis? What do we think? What is there any lessons that we can take from the story of that you pull from it?
I don't know if, like, overall as a whole, but I think that we need to stop trying to, I don't know what the word for it would be, like, realize art. Like, I feel like that's been a consistent theme with a lot of these episodes, is that these people are artists trying to tell stories most of the time, and then taking those stories and being like, no, these are real.
Well,
is
I mean,
not
especially
good.
take a guy like Plato, who was well known to use allegory
Yeah.
to state his point.
Which is insane to me, because in the Donnelly episode, on, like, the first episode, he wrote, like, a very good and understandable story, even if I don't think it was perfect, or if I think that is a little bit offensive in modern day. It is. But, like, he knows how to tell a story and he understands storytelling. And then you get to the second episode of that, and he's like, no, but this Atlantis shit is completely real.
Here's the
That's
thing.
insane to me.
Here's the thing that I found fascinating that I find is running through this whole thing. So of course we already talked about how it goes from Plato to Donnelly to Himmler, in that sort of way.
Yeah.
And it's a through line of Atlantis through history and interpretations of it. And you can see where they pull these things from. But I'm just thinking how I want to word this. Atlantis is lore building, right? We keep talking about it. And lore building is important to a lot of these men and these situations to get people to believe in something
Yeah.
they want to believe in, especially with Nazis. But even Donnelly does it too, right? Rubik does it as well. We want to build this lore that people could get behind and gather our people and rah-rah them up. And if they believe in it, if they believe the lore, then they're going to believe anything else we say. Because if to make your lives that much more interesting, we're telling you this is truth. And so that means you have to listen to everything else because now you're all in.
Yeah.
It's Scientology does that, right? You're all in. Here's all the stuff you have to do. Now you're in so deep. Here's the big secret. No matter how big the big secret is, you're already in so deep you can't walk away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what people have used Atlantis for throughout the years, to give a historical context to a bullshit story, to make power grabs and help them make power grabs. And it's crazy how this one story has had such a huge impact on history. And most people don't even know that it's been lurking in the background of like these facetious and nefarious things for hundreds of thousands of years.
So this may get philosophy nerds mad at us, but there's something that need to be understood about Plato. So when Plato was not a Democrat, he didn't, and I don't know this for. Could have been the influence of Socrates. Socrates was not a Democrat, and maybe having his mentor executed, literally killed by democracy, might have had an effect on those views.
It is kind of cute though that he like immortalizes his like idol. He like never ever stops immortalizing him. He's
he
like
wrote,
his self.
yeah, he wrote about him for like 5 decades after he died. But here's the thing about Plato is Plato. He said he didn't believe in democracy. He believed that society should be ruled by philosopher kings. He even attempted to create a philosopher king and failed.
Oh my god, that's my worst.
But here's
nightmare.
here's the thing that doesn't get said though. At least that I have found that doesn't get said.
Yeah.
What Plato advocates is the need of a philosopher king, someone he doesn't think knowledge should be shared. He uses stories to convey what people need to hear. So the intelligent, the philosophers tell the common people stories to tell them not what they need to hear.
Yeah.
What they need to do. It's a form of control.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the smart people in the room.
His
can run
allegory of the
things.
cave, well, is a good allegory. It's relevant to a lot of things. It's about being a philosopher. The guy who goes out and sees the real world is the philosopher. And the guy, and when he comes back in the cave, he's like, this is what the real world's like, and they all make fun of him. That's the common man making fun of it, because the philosopher is awakened to this.
Right.
Philosophers are woke. But here, again, the thing that doesn't get said, Plato was a wealthy aristocrat, essentially.
Yeah.
The people he surrounded himself were mostly wealthy aristocrats. The way it rings to me, again, maybe wrong, when he talks about the intelligent, the philosophers, he's talking about the wealthy, and when he's talking about the non-intelligent, he's talking about the poor. That's how it comes off to me. I might be wrong. But
No. And you see it, and I was going to say
that's how it
today,
comes off to me.
we need a philosopher king. It sounds vaguely similar to, Peter Thiel and Elon Musk, and we need a techno oligarchy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it hasn't changed.
So,
It hasn't changed.
My worst fucking night. No, dude, I would much
Yeah.
rather have a techno oligarchy than a
it
fucking
would.
philosophy king. Oh my god, dude, philosophers
He's
are
so
so
pretentious.
annoying. They're so
nothing would get done.
annoying.
We would talk about everything and do nothing.
Maybe they were better back in like the peak philosopher days, but philosophers of now, they are so annoying. I don't hate you if you're a philosopher, by the way, but like every single
we
philosopher
want
that
you
I've
on. We want your
ever talked to are so annoying. They're so pretentious, and they ask, well, why do you think that? Well, why do you want healthcare to be a right? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? So people don't die.
I've learned more about Plato in the past few months than I've known in my entire life. I don't know a lot about him still. Know virtually nothing, but to be honest, I like him less the more I learn about him. Just gonna be honest.
I'm sure there are good philosophers
I think
that I just don't know about.
I think many hours ago, I jokingly start of a Donnelly podcast. I can't remember which one. Enthusiastically and jokingly said, "Fuck Plato." I think we're all at a place now after learning about Atlantis and really the shitty shit that it somehow spawned into existence. We can all unequivocally say, "Fuck Plato."
Yep.
Yeah. I get people mad at us, but I don't care.
It'll be all right. Again, if you're a philosopher.
Again, I'm sure there are good philosophers. I'm sure that there are people who probably said very intelligent things, especially for the time period. But like,
guys,
I don't think Plato is one of them.
we are excited to say goodbye to Atlantis, and we are also excited to jump in to our next topic. We are going to cover Missing 411. So we're ready to move on. I hope all of you are too.
We have no timeline for the video yet.
We're hoping that we'll have it out before Christmas is the goal.
Maybe.
Uh,
Hopefully.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
I'm kind of doubting it, to be honest. but-
Until then, we'll be churning out content and getting them sweet, sweet, sweet hours until we hit our YouTube monetization goal.
And if you have any insights that you would like to give us on Plato, feel free to leave that in the comments.
Fucking follow us, CH13 at CH13 Network on all of the social medias, your TikToks, your Instagrams, of course on YouTube, which is probably where you're listening to us. We are on Spotify for right now on our podcast. You can listen to us just on audio. Also, Story Beneath episodes and everything else there. We want to get on more podcast platforms, but it's a struggle right now. So we're working it out. We'll let you know as soon as we're available on things that aren't just Spotify. Guys, any final thoughts?
It's hot in here.
Atlantis fucking sucks.
We're moving on. We're on the mission for what? Bigfoot, baby.
We will see y'all next time.
Let's do it. Goodbye, everybody.